Okay, so we have gone from upgrading to ascending. What comes after that? Catapulting? That was a stupid joke. Okay, but before we can get into it, I need to say that this particular episode is sponsored by the Radio vs. the Martians podcast, which you should definitely check out and listen to. The hosts, Mike Gillis and Casey Dorn, they cover anything geeky, from Ghostbusters to vigilante subgenre of films to Planet of the Apes to Batman. You name it, they will talk about it. It's the McLaughlin Group for Nerds, and they are always worth your time. Fun, funny, insightful. Check them out at radioversusthemartians.com or wherever you get your podcasts. So, the Ascension of the Cybermen, the first part of a two-part finale for Series 12 of Doctor Who. And it's hard for me to have an opinion on it. Things that are very clearly the first part of two-parters, that can often be the case, because more often than not, it is going to be nearly entirely dependent on the second half as to whether or not it is going to completely work. There are exceptions. There are some first halves that are great in and of themselves. World Enough in Time springs to mind. I also consider The Impossible Planet stellar on its own, even if you don't get the concluding half. But most two-parters, you think back to Army of Ghosts, or honestly, even Sound of Drums, you don't quite feel like you've gotten the whole thing. You kind of have to reserve judgment until you see the second half. And I kind of feel like that's the case here. But I need to review it in some fashion. So here we go, I guess. I think this did a very good job of solidifying the threat of the Cybermen. And definitely, I would say this is the most successful New Who has been in making them feel like a properly large-scale planetary galactic-sized threat. I'd say there was a threat to be felt in World Enough in Time, but that was what felt threatening was the creeping factor and the idea of the conversion itself. Not so much the idea of they're gonna go out and destroy all of humanity. They've tried to sell that with the Cybermen at various points across the show, and I've never really bought it. And that's not to say that I haven't enjoyed the Cybermen, but they don't feel like as big a threat as the show usually treats them as. And in some cases, like say Nightmare and Silver, they try so hard to sell the threat of these things, but for various reasons it just doesn't click. It clicks here. This feels threatening. Their presence, especially Ashad, the lone Cyberman. He is intimidating as heck, and we still don't know his full deal, but him saying, I basically volunteered, that kind of fits with what had kind of been my headcanon from the previous episode. This idea of there's something off about him. Even when he was a human being, there was something off about this guy that is contributing to the way that he is behaving as a Cyberman, because as gets pointed out in this episode, normally you break the emotional inhibitor and they can feel, then, they kind of lose it, if not explode. But here, he's clearly feeling, he's angry, he's frustrated, he has a sense of victory and triumph, but he's not losing his mind. So on some level, he is cool with what's happened to him and what he's become. And that, to me, is kind of fascinating, and the little bit more we see of him here really reasserts that. And so I'm digging that quite a bit. There was a genuine sense of fear I had for the companions. Like when Yaz and Graham got on that ship and Ryan wasn't with them, I did find myself thinking, oh God, if they've split up the companions, that opens up the possibility that somebody could die. Because I don't think the show would ever kill all three companions and at a swipe. That's not going to happen. But you separate them, suddenly Ryan becomes a viable death. And, you see the situation that Graham and Yaz and the people that they escape with are in, and you think, I could see one of them not making it out of this too. So there's a really good sense of tension in here. The whole thing with the Irish cop who's found as a baby, raised, becomes a local, guardsman, I think they say, it's or something like that, gets shot and falls off a cliff, somehow survives, lives to retirement, and then unaged, like the guy who brought him onto the police force and his adopted dad, unaged, take him to the back room to reset him and wipe his mind and go again. And I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know. I don't even know if I have a theory on that. I mean, aside from, there are some things that I have read, and I try and avoid fan theory or potential leaks, but there was something someone brought to my attention that I had read, and my brain keeps going to that because I could see how this would fit into that thing, and I'm not going to say what it was, and I don't mean to be teasy like that, but, I hate it. I hate it so much, and I don't want to taint anyone else's experience by them dreading that this is what's going to happen. But I am a little bit nervous because while I'm not going to say that this definitely points to, they are going to do that thing that I read about, I could see how this could fit into that. So I part of me wishes that I could have seen something that would have much more felt like, there's no way this fits into that stupid potential leaked plot thing that I read. Good, because that was dumb. So I'm gonna, and even setting all that aside, I am going to be going into the final episode very nervous because of how much is riding on it. Because, with the lone Cybermen, we have, so this episode, the one immediately preceding, to some degree, Fugitive of the Jadoon, and now the Master is tied in with that, so you can put the Spyfall two-parter as well, and you can say that all of those, to varying degrees, are really kind of dependent on the last episode sticking the landing, because if the last episode blows it, then those episodes, maybe not completely, but to some degree, are going to be made less. And those were all good episodes. So I'm nervous only because of how much is riding on it. And we haven't even brought back Ruth yet. It's to the point, and they're juggling so much now, especially with this introduction of whatever the heck was going on with that Irish cop guy, that I don't know if there's space to sort Ruth out, and I'm wondering if that is something that is going to get picked up again next series. Because it was also mentioned by Chibnall that Jack doesn't appear again this series. He just had the one initial appearance that we saw, which again would kind of indicate that some of these plans are planning to roll over to the next series, which is another thing that makes me nervous. The idea of stretching out the story over more than one series. Doctor Who hasn't really done that too much. It did it a little bit, I guess, with how the Cracks in Time led into the Silence, which didn't really get properly wrapped up until Time of the Doctor, but that didn't work. So I don't like that my main go-to comparison for basically a multi-season arc was something that didn't work. I am happy to see the Master back. I like I like this iteration of the Master. I have a lot of fun with him. So I like having him back. I will be curious what I see. Jodie Whittaker is bringing a lot of strength to the Doctor in this episode. And I saw some of this previous episode as well. And that's really nice to see. She almost felt too friendly and accommodating in Series 11. There wasn't always a proper sense of urgency about her, but I'm definitely getting that here. And you're getting, the weight of her passing house with the Cybermen, particularly, I think, Bill and what happened to her. In addition to that, they're evoking a lot of different stuff with the Cybermen. They are evoking the Cybermen. They are evoking basically Earthshock by the head shape for the warrior class or whatever it is, and the fact that they're all lined up in these boxes effectively, like that was very Earthshock, that whole reveal. So that was cool. I like, given that Chibnall has a tendency, at least in Doctor Who, to so far this series especially be just picking up bits and pieces of what's been done before and just kind of remixing it. If that's how he's going to approach this, which I'm enjoying, certainly this series, and enjoying it more than his attempt to do nothing but new stuff with Series 11, I'm glad that he is remixing elements from classic and not just earlier New Who. I like that he's reaching back farther for that, for smaller points of reference, not necessarily for, and now we bring back this creature, no, to drop names like the Guardians that we got in Can You Hear Me, and now, sort of this stuff reminiscent of Earthshock, and that is cool, and I do enjoy that quite a bit. The supporting cast was fine for the most part. Some of them seemed a little forced, a little clunky, but none of them were on screen and demanded the screen time enough that bothered me too much. And like I said, the Doctor was really good in this. I do like the lone Cyberman. I think he's super effective as a villain. I really dig him. The flying Cybermen heads were a little goofy, and it's okay for Doctor Who to get a little goofy sometimes, but this is a bit of a more serious feel to it, so I'm not sure that this was the episode to pull that specifically, but that's a tiny moment. And as nervous as I am going into the finale, this was a solid piece of setup. So we'll see what happens. Ascension of the Cybermen, what did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something on down in the comments and let's talk about it. Usual stuff as well. Support me on Patreon. I hit 250 supporters on there, which is amazing. And seriously, any amount helps, even $1 a month. Honestly, it adds up and it allows me to keep this going and make it bigger and make it better. So thank you for that. And you, of course, the usual stuff, like, subscribe, share this video around. But you also don't have to do any of it because, end of the day, you're the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.